Part 3, Debrief of Lesson. Were my lesson objectives met? How do I know? Yes, my lesson objectives were met. Students were able to give me feedback during their small groups. Students were also asked probing questions and given feedback on misconceptions. Is there anything I would do differently next time? If so, why and what impact might this have? Yeah, I would probably give students a pre-lab next time with the steps of the experiment the day before the lab. And this would impact the lesson because it would give more instructional minutes for students to actually do the lab. What happened or will happen after the teaching segment in this video? After the teaching segment in this video, students will be given a real life scenario on temperature. The scenario is if you bake a cake and take it out of the oven, which one has a hotter temperature? Students' prior knowledge on heat will be determined because the correct answer is the same temperature. And really what we feel when we touch something is heat transferring from us or to us. Students will also, after the discussion and after this probing question, students will watch an instructional video to learn the difference between heat and temperature. Also, students will learn about how heat is transferred and we feel heat when we touch things. Students would then participate in a class discussion on heat and temperature after we watch the video. Students would then be given a lab safety rules and directions. Students would transition into groups with music. Students would then assign their group roles once they're in groups. The 4 roles of the groups were reader, recorder, observer, and experimenter. Students would then get lab materials. The experimenter would get the lab materials from the front and return to their group. Students would then model heat transfer with the lab materials, and the lab materials include butter, hot water, aluminum foil, and aluminum pan. Students would use the aluminum pan and pour hot water into the aluminum pan. Then students will make a boat out of aluminum foil, and then they would place the butter inside the aluminum foil. And students would then have to see how heat would transfer based on these particular items. After this, students would transition out of groups. And before they transition out of groups, they would have to complete their lab handout. Then students would transition out of groups, review today's objectives, and be dismissed after the bell roll by roll.